Hey, Sunday School, it's Pastor Schlund again. Welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here with us again for this Sunday School day. It's so awesome to be able to be with you, even if it's here on the video. Now, if you remember last week, we had this story about spies, the 12 spies that were sent into the Promised Land to check out this place that God wanted to give his people to dwell after they'd come out of Israel. And as they went into the Promised Land, they saw a whole bunch of stuff. They saw big, tall walls. They saw huge people. They saw these big grapes and other fruits and vegetables. And they came back and they were scared. They were scared because it all seemed so overwhelming. They weren't sure how this was going to work. But there were two of the spies, two that went on that mission that weren't scared. They knew that God had promised to be with them, and so they trusted in him to take care of them, even when they went into the Promised Land. Unfortunately, the rest of the people didn't see it that way. They trusted the 10 spies who were scared of what they had seen when they went into the Promised Land. And so they decided that they couldn't do it. God wasn't very happy about this, and so he punished them. He made them walk around in the desert for 40 years. Now we come to the end of that punishment, the end of their time wandering around in the desert. We've skipped 40 years between last week's story and this week's story, and they're back, just about ready to go in. But before they can go into the Promised Land, God has some special instructions for them. God wants them to clean up. He wants them to be ready to go into the Promised Land. And then they're supposed to follow the priests who are carrying the Ark of the Covenant on their shoulders, but not too close, because he doesn't want them to be destroyed. And so they're following along with the priests who are carrying the Ark of the Covenant, and they come to the Jordan River. This is a river you might be familiar with from when John the Baptist is out baptizing people and getting ready for Jesus to come. He baptizes in the Jordan River, and Jesus is baptized in the Jordan River. And so they come up to the Jordan River, and as the priest's feet touch the water, something awesome happens. When the priest's feet touch the water spreads apart. Like when the Israelites were coming out of Egypt, and everyone is able to pass through on dry ground. It's amazing. Verse 15 says that this river normally floods, so that's a lot of water to be spread apart. And the priests stand right in the middle of the river, right in the middle of the dry ground, while everybody passes to the other side. And once everybody has passed through on dry ground into the Promised Land, and then the priests come out and the water comes right back together. It's a remarkable thing that God does for his people to bring them safely into the Promised Land. As the people followed the priests towards the Jordan River, getting ready to cross into the Promised Land, they sent on 40,000 of their troops ahead of them from Reuben and Gad and Manasseh, from those 3 tribes. And they led the charge into the Promised Land to protect the rest of the people. When they get to the other side, they build a monument to God's power and to his faithfulness. Each one of the 12 tribes of Israel picks up one stone and they stack them all together so that there are 12 stones. And this is to be a memorial, a place that they can come back to and tell people, this is the spot where God brought us into the Promised Land. Now, can you imagine if water was parted so that people could walk through on dry ground? What you would think if you heard about that? Well, the kings in the areas around this Promised Land were terrified. They heard that God had done this remarkable thing and they were scared. 2 interesting things happen after the Israelites come into the Promised Land. One, all the men have to be circumcised because that wasn't happening while they were out in the desert. And this was the physical sign of God's promise to his people. And 2, if you remember, while they were wandering around in the desert, God provided bread that came down from heaven every day. It was called manna. And when they celebrated the Passover for the first time in the Promised Land, that was the last day that the manna came from heaven, because now they were living in their land that God had promised them, and they could get their own food. I hope you have a great morning here in Sunday School as you learn more about this lesson, as you sing your songs and pray your prayers and enjoy time together. I pray that this is a great morning for you and that you'll come back and join us next week. Bring some friends along as we continue to learn these great stories of God and how much he loves us and cares about us and how much he promises to be with us. Have a great day.